Hey, it's the last word. Friday. I'm parked at a rest area. I don't want any funny comments, by the way. Um, I'm driving down from northern Michigan back home after the Michigan mortgage lender. So, KP, great to see you. Jodi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. We're all in transit, it sounds like. I just drove back from Pittsburgh, visiting my good friend Jonathan Freed at GetTrained.ai.
Oh, right on.
Oh, yeah. Love Jonathan. Just got an email from his EA to set up a meeting at TMC Denver.
Awesome.
So, hey guys, I'm gonna take some creative liberty and maybe start the show and the conversation talking about state associations, right? State mortgage associations and state or local, maybe regional events and conferences. Because I am coming off of the Michigan Mortgage Lenders Association annual conference held in lovely Boyne City, Michigan, or Boyne Mountain, I should say. Um, I'm going to start by recognizing the Joanne Mascara and the team at MMLA. Um, Great event. Obviously, Michigan's a hotbed for mortgage. A lot of great people in the business here, and shocking. Rob Chrisman was in northern Michigan, and he's now flying. Now he's flying home, but that guy's everywhere. And
Yes.
I just want to start, and I think you guys, the two of you agree with me, and I'm sure most of our listeners slash watchers do, but we are so fortunate to have a guy like Rob Chrisman in our industry, in our sphere. And I say in our sphere because everybody that reads his email every day is in the sphere, right? Is in his circle. And it was so cool just to see how loved Rob is here in Michigan, but I know it's that way everywhere. And so I just want to start by publicly thanking Rob for being Rob and doing what he does, and obviously being our home for this last word show every week. So, Rob, I know you're on a plane right now, but you'll watch this later, I'm sure. Thank you, bud.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's also always a thrill to run into him at conferences and to share his knowledge that he has in the industry and I look forward to the email every morning and, popping in there, see what's going on. So great tribute to Rob and to see him in a few weeks at TMC in Denver.
Yeah, he travels more than anyone I know in this business. It's unbelievable. He's a beast. I love telling the story, and it'll never get old, and I'll say it a million times. We were on a live and we did a podcast, and he's pulled over on the side of the road in front of a cemetery outside of Memphis, Tennessee. I swear to God. You just never know where he's gonna be. He's like, yeah, he's like, I don't think anyone behind me is joining us. But he's always good for intelligence with wit, and then he travels, and so the California Mortgage Bankers Association, we have our board meeting in 2 days on Sunday at 3 o'clock at Terraneta in Rancho Palo Verde, and I joined the board about a year and a half ago. That's the Western Secondary, huge show, great attendance. Talking about the insurance crisis and all kinds of things that's happening for everyone. Rob was rolling off the board as I was rolling on, and he had perfect attendance for I think it was 9 years. There's like legislative days, board meetings, Western secondaries. So he just makes it a priority to do these things, and this year I was like, all right, I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to do perfect attendance. I want to be Rob Chrisman. Of course, my company's president's cabinet cruise in the Caribbean was the same week as our legislature. So I blew it out in a year. So I couldn't even make it happen. So yeah, he's a beast.
And Rob's not like, there's a lot of people that speak at these conferences. They're on the circuit, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I see them, you see them, we all see them. We know who they are, and they tend to maybe show up the day of their session, and then maybe kind of walk into the the area about an hour before they're going to go on stage, and then maybe hang around for 30 minutes after, and then they're gone. I will tell you, Rob, from kickoff to literally to the end, because I was in the very last meeting with him this morning, like full attention in every session, taking notes. And then he was Rob led a panel yesterday of leaders here in Michigan, mortgage company leaders. He led a panel which closed out, the event yesterday. Would have been very easy for him to, kind of skate on out, skip dinner, and go, get on a plane to get back home. But he was right at it. He and I were very fortunate to be invited to get on a boat with Owen Lee and some others and tour Lake Charlevoix, where we actually witnessed an Olympic feat. Bob Brooksmith jumps into swimming trunks, puts goggles on, dives off Owen's boat in Lake Charlevoix, and proceeds to do circles around the boat. That was pretty amazing. And then there was no doggy paddle. This dude was like legit.
When someone breaks out goggles, they swim. So
that's right.
Just a little FYI, as a goggle owner, that are like 12 years old. They're 12 years old, so I'm just saying. But yeah, when someone breaks out goggles, they are that is their exercise of choice. That's impressive. So it's funny you bring up Bob, because he's the second most travel guy in our business, and it's like a close second. I mean, he and Rob are everywhere, so it doesn't surprise me they're on the same random boat in a random lake.
Yeah, it was great. So real quick, just a couple kind of nuggets that came out this week at MMLA. Of course, Bob was on stage, and he was joined by Owen Lee. Owen's joining the MBA ladder. Owen, he's the current chair of MorePac, right? So he's our Jerry Lewis fundraiser today for MBA. But he gave a great update on the trigger bill lead. I know we talked about it here a couple weeks ago. But when you get to these state level association meetings, and you get a lot of people that aren't necessarily going to the MBA national type events, it's so important to have folks come in and represent MBA and kind of bring it to the local level. So there was some good dialogue and discussion around trigger leads. I was at a table afterwards with a loan officer at a credit union who was describing what happened to one of their members, right after they took an application. And then, Owen just re-emphasized the importance of all of us who are in the industry, who care about the industry, who are making a career or starting a career in this industry, to be participating, and not just, writing a check to MorePac, but be active in the participation when there's calls to action from the Mortgage Action Alliance and things like that. So just friendly reminder to all y'all out there that we do a lot and we can do more to really advance our industry. And then I'll kind of open it up to you two on this topic. So as I mentioned, Rob Chrisman moderated a panel, and it was 4 leaders, from mortgage companies, credit unions here in Michigan. And the topic of, is there a refi boom coming up? And there was a little bit of debate on the stage, which was interesting. Tim Pascarella, who runs Ross Mortgage, an IMB here in Michigan, he's of the mindset that there will not be a refi boom. It's certainly not a refi boom in the way that we've been accustomed to with, rate and term type refis. And he shared an anecdotal couple conversations he's been having with borrowers where, maybe 5 years ago, someone saving $140 a month would have been all over a refinance. And today he's like, I can't get people to pull the trigger saving $200 a month, even though it's going to shave off like half their cable bill, as an example. And so he kind of felt like there's a little consumer laziness maybe, or burnout, or maybe they just don't believe that, there's enough juice there to squeeze. But he did say, and I think you guys are probably seeing this, that the cash out refi, the strategic refi for cash out debt consolidation, is kind of the the order of the day. And so just thought I'd throw that out there and see what you guys are seeing.
Yeah, thought it was interesting that applications went up 35%, but I don't know what you're seeing from a lock perspective, because if I'm the consumer waiting to see, knowing feds are going to slash rates in September, am I going to hold out for a lower rate? So do we see that 35% increase in applications taking longer to close because it's a wait and see game to see how low rates will go and be ready to, lock in when they feel that it is at the bottom. So I know applications are up, but I'm this is going to come out of my mouth. Hi, Tim. We might not always agree on things, but I actually agree with Tim. Like I think it is going to be the cash outs, or it's going to be home equity lines of credit. And fortunately or unfortunately, a $200 to $250 a month savings, it doesn't seem like that much to people. And so I don't know if it's that they're lazy or they're just like, can I get more?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that the trigger bill, conversation is still, at the top of the table for conversation. So, all of our organizations, MBA, state organizations, Broker Action Coalition, Brian, you and I are on that board as well. Everyone's on that. So if Congress would get their shit together and actually pass anything, but I think that the issue with refis is that it's still very early, right? So we haven't even had a Fed rate cut. We haven't had the presidential election. And so, all of us who are in the know, we see rates have come down significantly. The 10-year Treasury yield has come down since October of last year. It doesn't go in a straight line, up, down, but it's been trending down. I even pointed out on a private message a few months ago to Logan Motoshami, I was like, aren't you noticing that the 10-year technical is making lower highs? And he points that out a lot on his Instagram as well. So, the trend is your friend. So, borrowers are weird. Like, they're going to do things on their own time. And some people that, maybe, and I love Tim, but maybe Tim just doesn't have anybody where $200 moves the needle, right? So, but for some borrowers that does move the needle. But I think everyone's going to come into the fold for a net tangible benefit. I won't say everyone, but more people as time goes on. The Fed has projected on their last dot plot, which, they're going to do a dot plot in September 18th, and I'd be curious to see, are they going to go to 3%? Is that the neutral rate for them? That's 225 basis points of cutting, and we haven't even started cutting. So this time next year, I think people will be like, man, I'm so freaking busy, and the reason I think they'll say they're busy is because half of the LOs are gone. So it's a boomlet. We can never compare to 20 and 2021, although we will. It won't be like that unless we have another pandemic. Hope that doesn't happen. And then, of course, I don't think we would have some kind of existential crisis like all the regulators think we are and like we did in 2008, right? So, our industries get smarter and better at things as time goes on. But let me just say, there's going to be a lot of business coming. Jodi just pointed out the refi index stat that went up 35%. I think it's just the beginning. It's going to be a boomlet. I think there's going to be $3 trillion of business that will refinance over the next year and a half. I've been saying that for a year and a half. You have a lot of first-time home buyers that have been, getting into higher mortgages since June of 22. Even the spring of 22. And rates are going to come down below every one of those purchase money loans. And plus there's equity. And I wouldn't sleep on the fact, no one wants to count. Like if I'm at a 3.5% rate and my house went up 50% in equity and the 7Ds take effect and I want to buy the next house, deployment, diamonds, diapers, debt, divorce, death, downsizing, all the things. I'm going to sell the whole house, even with that 3.5% rate, and I may pay 5.5%, but I paid all this equity into the next house, and the payments roughly the same for the bigger, better house based on those 7Ds needs. And that people aren't counting that as like, as opportunity, even though, I guess that would be considered a purchase. But I still think there's going to be a big uptick in business, and it's going to feel bigger than it actually is because there's just less of us working on it. And probably especially on the real estate side after tomorrow's NAR settlement, but I won't go there yet.
Before we go there, we have to also point out that 40% of mortgages today are at 4% or less. And so if you don't have Kevin's 5Ds, or you have, a lot of 70s,
70.
You don't have, I mean, you stay put unless you have debt that you have to consolidate. But hopefully, I hope that a large portion of that 40% doesn't have high credit card debt.
Right.
Well, let's throw out another 40 number. I think it's 45% of all homes are owned free and clear. There's almost 12%, almost 12 trillion in tappable equity, up to 80% LTV. So, one of the reasons why inflation has been going down pretty fast the last year, but certainly the last couple of years, people aren't spending money on durable goods. They're not buying cars because interest rates are high. They're not buying home goods. They're not buying stuff. They did all that during the pandemic. And so we traded all of our goods inflation for services inflation. So people going out to dinner, taking trips, experiences. So there's some pent-up demand for goods. And if you see the retail sales number that came out this week, it was a little bit higher. The big reason was automobiles. So, people are going to want to buy shit, and they're going to tap into that equity. And again, there's so many people that have they don't owe anything, so to rip off $100,000, at a super low rate, especially now that Freddie Mac and hopefully Fannie soon to follow, behind mortgagees, first lien mortgages of Fannie and Freddie will allow a Fannie Freddie HELOC with an A-paper rate. I mean, I think there's a lot of pent up demand, and we're having that syndrome where we've had our asses beaten down for 2 years and people aren't seeing the forest through the trees. This isn't new. I mean, I went at our senior management meeting, last week. I'm like, hey, I've only been in the business 23 years, but when the Fed starts cutting, it's game on. And the Fed has just said they're about to start cutting. Like, it's game on. Start hiring, start getting ready. Let's go. Let's get our marketing activity. Like, everyone snap out of it. Let's get some energy. That's the message I'm trying to send to our team, and obviously through this podcast and thing. Like, it's go time.
So that was another topic that came up in one of the panel discussions was around when do you start hiring again? When do you start staffing up? And I'm not going to name names. I'll let somebody else do that. But there on the stage, there was definitely a difference of opinion. One school of thought was, we're never going to hire again. We're just going to, leverage our existing resources and some of our, third-party resources. We don't want to ever get in a situation again that we were in. And then the other side, it was, they've already started to kind of strategically build up the areas that they think are going to get impacted first. And so I'm curious, I think I know where you stand on this, KP. You're very bullish and very optimistic and very vocal on it. Jodi, in your discussions with not just the lender side, but on the vendor side, anything that you want to share in terms of what you're hearing around kind of when and what is that trigger for, answering the question, do I hire now or not?
I think that we already saw it. Remember, it was a couple months ago, there was a small decrease in interest rates and applications went up 17%. And the lenders were talking about how busy they were. And, I can't imagine applications up 35%. The news are going to hear about that. But Tom Gallucci of Zactus, Jonathan Freed, and I at breakfast this morning were talking about this. And I know exactly what's going to happen. Everybody was like, wait. And then they're going to get back, even though they said, we never want to get into this accordion effect again. They didn't work on building out enhancements or processes. they're going to wait until it's too late, and then they're going to reach out to a third party and say, hey, I really need your help. I can't handle the business that I have. And then they're going to, which, larger lenders that are buy versus build are going to be doing the same thing. The smaller lenders are going to get pushed to the bottom of the priority list, and they're going to be struggling. So those lenders who haven't been trying to create efficiency in their product process to be able to handle that without having to hire individuals are going to be running out and doing the same thing that they did in 2020, 2021. So we've seen it coming, as Kevin will say, like we knew that it'll happen, and, we'll figure it out. And I don't think there's going to be as great of a demand like in 20 and 2021, but people are they're going to see the consequences of, holding back and not investing in themselves over the last couple of years.
Agreed. And that's been a theme I've been saying for 2 years, or more as we've gone this downturn. Don't hold back on spending and investing, and I know for some it's hard, right? We've seen some M&A activity with some weaker companies having to sell, or get acquired. And so, we just hired 20 people in the last 60 days in the underwriting section. We just put out 10 more spots, right? And so I know I personally got some resumes and got 2 more hired, and then there was a rehire as well. So we're leaning into it. I think most companies have right size over the last couple of years, and so any uptick is tough. And now the good news is it's the second half of the year, so it's not seasonally super busy. It's not like a crazy time, especially for purchases. And so there is that aspect of it. But what's interesting is who has beefed up and who's made some very big bets, and their staffing is on high alert and working their ass off, are servicers. I'm seeing all the chatter. I'm seeing all the chatter from all the brokers. Oh, I got this EPO from my favorite lender, and they're cutting me deals. I got to pay them X. So the servicers are in full force. We had one of our TPO partners. They experienced an EPO, and so that conversation's happening, and it's going to happen a lot because the servicers have paid a lot of money for portfolios that they've acquired, whether through the flow or mandatory markets or TBA, or some of the bigger ones, obviously through acquisition. They want some return on investment, and they're not going to let that asset that they think is theirs, even though every originator, knows deservedly so that relationship with that consumer was theirs originally, literally the word originator. So, that these battles are happening already. They're taking place. And so servicers are calling like crazy. So, whether our teams are not, servicers are on high alert, and they're like, hey, have you seen rates have dropped? And they're calling, and they're forcing a lot of activity that I think is going to, create some churn and some heartburn here, the second half and the remainder of this year, other than the election.
So, KP, it's my client. I originated the loan. It's my client. Of course, they're going to come back to me. I've been kind of talking about on LinkedIn the reality that I believe, and I've not scientifically proven this by any survey or anything, but I believe most consumers that get a mortgage feel as though they're the customer of the loan officer up until closing and funding. Because most consumers don't necessarily think of post-funding of a relationship with a loan officer, right, or a lender. And so I think all of us as independent originators have to really rethink how we frame the expectations of a relationship with a consumer. And I love Ryan Grant, for example, really has this mindset that the relationship doesn't start until I close your loan. And now I've got a 30-year relationship with you that I'm gonna help you as your home equity advisor, as an example. And so, because go ahead. No, go.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I think it depends on how the originator has the conversation up until close. right? So we know a servicer is going to have some little phone monkey head jockey going, you know, here's your rate, here's your payment, here's your rate, here's your payment. That, and of course, that, so it's always ironic, you know, when servicers who acquire servicing, like, hey, this is ours now, I'll tell your originator not to call, but then their originator is like a little monkey, you know, like, like rate, you know? And so what are they doing? And so now I'm here to help servicers as well. I mean, I think there are retention programs that servicers could take as well. Like, you know, I'm part of a credit card rewards platform called Mesa, which I think servicers could use to create some engagement, just like you guys at FinLocker do with our clients as well. You know, there are different ways post-closing for servicers and originators alike to have more than just the transaction. And so, you know, to the point that you're making, you know, how are you talking in that conversation with the buyer up until closing? Hey, I'm going to help you with your debt. By the way, I'm going to do this loan, and I'm going to do all the way until everyone in your family wants a loan, and then I'm going to do your reverse mortgage at the end when you need cash to pay for your medical bills when you're no longer working, you have a fixed budget. So you have to position yourself in those conversations like, I'm going to help manage your debt. I'm going to help you find out. And if you're local, it's even better, obviously, because you can say, I know where the good schools are, and I got a guy for your bushes, and I got a, you know, so, you know, I think it really depends on that conversation. But to your point, the conversations are fast and heavy until closing.
Yeah.
And so then after closing, you know, how much are you picking up the phone? Like we can drip on with campaigns and the credit card loyalty program, which is fantastic, which is super engaging. FinLocker, super engaging. Our servicers super engaging, and we get a statement from them 12 times a year, you know, but they have call center people that like their managers are like, call this bar or you're fired, right? Whereas like if I go to any of my originators, you know, our 650, like I don't operate like that with them.
Yeah.
And so they're not calling and they're being out called, right?
Yeah.
And so I think every independent mortgage banker has that problem. You don't get to sit there and say, you know, how much are you actually touching base with the client? How is you touching base? Phone is always the best. Standing appointments, quarterly reviews, monthly reviews, at least a yearly review. You know, what do you get on the phone and have a relationship? So I think that's where services actually, you know, do a good job of reaching out and outbounding. And so, you know, there's no one right answer, but I just kind of throwing out some ideas, concepts of what I'm seeing out there and what's going to win going forward.
Yeah, and Jodi, I know you're close with a lot of the technology partners out there that help lenders think about this. Anything that you're seeing that maybe is interesting for folks to take a look at?
No, it is interesting, the mindset of a retention servicing loan officer versus a retail loan officer, and it's an age-old problem. And I think that it's gotten worse with this digital world, that we feel like they should be calling me. Like,
Right.
I have automated text messages going out, and like, God forbid I actually pick up a phone and speak to someone. Like, that's scary. Like that's like cold calling. They need to be calling me. They need to be reaching out. So it is, we're in a relationship business. And I think like we know that, but I think the younger generations, they feel as though, well, they applied digitally, they'll come back to me digitally, and I don't have to put the effort in to continue that relationship.
You know, you bring up a great point, because what do the consumers want? I mean, some of them don't want a phone relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, like, and again, I don't want to lump all services in there. I know not all services have little headset jockeys, but you know, like SoFi, for example, you know, a buddy of mine, Matt Fankhauser, used to be there. He's a CoreLogic now. I mean, they have an app, right? Social finance. They have an app. They're talking about like your finances, your credit, you know, just like with FinLocker. But see, they only do it for them. Whereas Brian and FinLocker is for the whole industry, which I love, right? And so, you know, Rocket has a credit card and rewards platform, but it's only for them, right? So Mesa is for the whole industry. And so, but again, some of our consumers are younger, you know, they're 33, first-time home buyers. Maybe they don't want to get on the phone with, you know, that person to help them. I don't know, you know, so I think we're in a changing time. I will tell you that if conversations get automated, if fulfillment of loans gets automated, you know who gets marginalized? It's originators. And so, you know, same as it ever was, right? Like, I mean, we've talked about this with appraisers and underwriters, and you know, everyone's all more expensive than they've ever been.
Well, you know, we could probably go on, but this is called the last word for a reason. And so we are going to leave it at that. This was a awesome conversation, guys. I think, you know, for me, my message for all of you watching, wherever you are, whatever state or area you're in, seek out and engage with your local chapter of the Mortgage Bankers Association or any other local mortgage association. I'm coming off of ours again, just energized. I encourage all of you to kind of find a way to be more involved in your local and state MBA chapter, and just be engaged and help make a difference here in our lovely industry. KP, any last words from you?
Well, here's the last word reveal. Where in the world is KP? Our four kids start school Monday, so we like the end of season on the beach house. By the way, shout out to Joel, former AE with us, PRMG, and Melody, my good friends since junior high. In the comments down below. Here we go. We're on the beach. We're on Newport Beach Peninsula. Yeah. There you go, Jodi. Get that last word, girl.
All right, awesome. So all you lenders out there, don't wait and call me and ask me how we substitute hiring a bunch of people. So prepare today.
Hey, realtors.
So
hold on. We even talk. I mean, we really didn't touch on the NAR thing, but is it a big deal? Realtors, fear not. You have a value proposition. Just communicate it. Learn to communicate it. People are going to come to you. You've got a history. You've got surveys that show how good you are. Just continue to communicate that value proposition. Big change tomorrow on all the sales contracts.
Yeah, let's plan next Friday, KP, to kind of just talk about some anecdotal feedback from the week one of kind of post NAR settlement.
Yeah, sadly, I'll be on a plane coming back, so I might not be on that one. It'll be my first.
Oh boy,
full miss. So
we'll cover
anyway,
you. We'll cover you.
We'll work it.
All right, y'all.
All right, guys, have a great weekend.
Cheers, y'all.
See you guys.